Hello, this is Victoria Lee. I am going to do the organizational control presentation for leadership class. So first, we're going to talk about what is organizational control. So think of it as this way. When you are leading a really big company, and then you have hundreds or thousands of employees to manage, it is really easy for so many people to lose focus and chase something that is not important for the goal of the organization. So, organizational control is really about a systematic process of how to control all departments, employees are acting consistently with the goals of the organization. So when we talk about it's like a system, so it has the goal setting, performance, measure, and then taking corrective action. So we're gonna talk about like feedback control model. So we talk about it is like a system because it has a 4 key steps. So we have to create the goals, measure the performance, and compare the actual performance with standard, and then lastly to make corrections as necessary. Then I think this process flow would give you a clear picture about the whole feedback loop. So we have like an orderly steps to take. We have to set up the goals, have the standards performance, we measure the performance, and we compare and let's take corrective action. However, we also want to make sure that the goal we're setting, the standard we're setting, is reasonable, and also, so when we're it's realistic when we compare the goal and the actual performance. So there are a lot of systems different company take to the overall organizational control system. So one of them is called balanced scorecard. So the balanced scorecard provides a systematic approach to measure and manage all aspects of a company's performance. So it has a traditional measurements like financial measurements, but it also take other perspectives as well. So it's not just numbers, not only the focus. We also take other performances measurements as well. So there are really 4 perspectives for the balanced scorecard. Well, we also call it BSC. So there's financial, customer, process, learning, and growth for the organization. So the BSC enables a company to track the financial results. So that's ultimately the most important goal for a company, to have profit and have future growth. But I also do this by tracking the different perspective from the customer, from the internal process, and employees and systems point of view. So if we're gonna connect every perspective all together, I think this is really good process flow for us to understand balanced scorecard. It's better for us to take these to see this from bottom to the top. So if we have really good employees and they have better skills, so which means we can improve our process quality and cycle time. which makes sure we have on-time delivery, and then we can ensure customer service. When we kept the customer service, and then we have a good return on investment. That's all financial figure. So we can see all of these perspectives are all linked together from bottom to the top. So a BSC really talks about the company's strategy. So usually, a balanced scorecard identifies and makes the hypothesis about the cause and effect of relationships between outcome measures in the financial and customer perspective, and also, the performance drivers of this outcome in the related to the internal and learning and growth perspective. So the objective is, it's about like how to articulate the goals the organization hope to accomplish. It's really, several action phrases to use 3 to 5 sentences to describe each objective. So there are some typical objectives you can find in each perspective. Like, let's see, just from one perspective, um, let's just say from learning and growth perspective, we want to align employee incentives and rewards with the company's strategy. Like, let's see, financial perspective, increase revenues through expanded sales to existing customers. We can see there's like a lot of verbs to make this perspective can be taken into actions. And measures. So when we set the goals, we want to see how are we performing against these goals. So it's really specifying exactly how an objective is measured with a clear focus for their improvements and efforts. So targets and initiatives. Targets establish the level of performance or rate of improvement required for a measure. So when we set the targets, we should be set to represent the best, most excellent performance, how our company could be the best performers in the industry. Well, initiatives really compare with targets are really short-term programs and see how do we achieve, the ultimate success with, short-term goals. So now we're gonna take a look at all of these 4 perspectives one by one. So first and the most important financial perspective. So for any company, the most important goal is really to how to maximize my profit, my bottom line. So and then it really like a company's financial performance can be improved in 2 ways. One is really to generate more revenue, and the other is to increase productivity or reduce cost. So when we talk about generating more revenue, we can increase revenue by selling more product, generate more customers, or expanding in new markets. So for increased productivity, we can lower direct or indirect expenses and using the current assets more efficiently. So on the second perspective is customer perspective. in this perspective, we want to identify the targeted customer segments in which we're competing with others. And then the perspective typically includes several common measures of successful outcomes from implementing the strategy. We can measure the success by achieving customer satisfaction and loyalty, acquire more customers, or increase market share and enhance customer profitability. So, a strategy identifies specific segments targeted for growth and profitability. Companies must also identify the objectives and measures for the value proposition it offers the customers. So the value proposition is really a mix of product price and service relationship and the image we offer to the targeted customers. I think we also need to communicate what the company expects to do for its customers better or differently from its competitors. So the next one, we're going to look at process perspective. So the process, which means how do you create and deliver the value proposition for the customers and achieve the productivity improvements for the financial objectives? We're focusing on internal process improvement because it identifies the critical process that the company must excel to achieve its customer revenue growth and profitability objectives. So let's talk about what does this internal process include. So it can include operating process, customer managed process, innovation process, regulatory and social process. Basically everything that you do to generate more process and retain customers on an operational level. That's what is referring to by internal process. So the last one, which is like also very important, is learning and growth. How do you make sure what you're doing today can ensure the success for tomorrow? So that's why we're saying identify objectives for people, systems, and organizational alignment that create long-term growth and improvement. So how do you want to develop your employee skills, your technology and your organizational structures, like in the first place, to ensure the long-term growth and long-term growth. So, and one important thing is it also identifies how managers and executives can mobilize the intangible assets to drive improvement in the internal process most popular for their strategy implementation. So there are several ways to ensure long-term growth. You can develop the core competencies and skills for your employees, develop leadership skills, and provide access to strategic information and engage and empower employees so they can contribute more to the success of the company. Now we want to do a summary of the balance scorecard. The benefits from BCS are realized as the organization integrates its new management system into management process that communicate the strategy to all employees and organizational units, align employees' individual objectives and incentives to successfully strategize implementation, and also integrate the strategy with an ongoing management and processes. So overall, organizational control is one very important step in the management of the whole company. You want to make sure everyone knows the strategy and the goals of the company, and then you set standards so employees know how to focus and target, and then we measure their actual performances with the goals we're setting, and then we can see what's discrepancies and how we can improve in the long term. So balanced scorecard is a very balanced, full perspective tools that can be used by organization to improve their performance and ensure its long-term growth. Thank you. That's all.